For the last 70 years, our entire digital world, everything, has been built on one single element, silicon. But that incredible era, it's coming to an end. So today, we're going to talk about the radical idea that could replace it, building computers not by carving down, but by building them up, one single molecule at a time. Okay, let's just dive right in. To really get where we're going, you first have to understand the world we're leaving behind. We're talking about the world of the silicon microchip and the relentless, unstoppable law that has powered its progress for decades. Now, you've probably heard of Moore's law. It's this observation from Gordon Moore way back in the 60s that the number of transistors we can cram onto a chip doubles, roughly, every 2 years. And this simple observation is the reason we have everything from smartphones to supercomputers. But see, there's another much lesser-known law at play here, Rock's law. And it says that the cost of the factory you need to build those chips, that doubles every 4 years. So while our transistors get exponentially smaller, the price tag for making them gets exponentially bigger. I mean, we are talking $10 to $25 billion for just one advanced factory. And the problem isn't just about the money, it's physics. We are literally running out of atoms to work with. When your transistors get this tiny, the really strange rules of quantum mechanics just take over. There's this effect called tunneling, and it means electrons start leaking right through the walls that are supposed to contain them. Silicon is hitting a fundamental wall. So if we can't carve silicon any smaller, what's the alternative? Well, what if we just flipped the entire manufacturing process completely on its head? Instead of that top-down approach, we could try a bottom-up revolution. And that is the core idea of molecular electronics. Instead of taking a big block of silicon and etching circuits into it, you assemble them from the ground up. You'd use individual molecules as your perfect pre-built components, your switches, your wires, your logic gates, the whole shebang. And this isn't some brand new idea. Way back in 1959, the brilliant physicist Richard Feynman gave this lecture where he imagined manipulating individual atoms and molecules. He famously said, "There's plenty of room at the bottom." And that one line pretty much inspired the entire field of nanotechnology. Now, as you can probably imagine, taking an idea from a lecture in 1959 and actually building a working computer with it is, well, it's unbelievably hard. Scientists in this field are up against what they call the 5 Cs, which is basically a series of massive hurdles that stand in the way. So these are the big questions. How do you link molecules together in a chain? That's concatenation. How do you attach them to a surface? That's connectivity. How do you stop them from interfering with each other? Crosstalk. How do you connect them to our world of electronics? Compatibility. And, the biggest one of all, can you actually do it affordably? That's cost effectiveness. Look, solving even one of those is a huge deal. But what's so exciting, and what we're going to focus on, is that some recent research has found a single, elegant molecule that makes a giant leap forward on several of these fronts all at once. So let's zoom in on this breakthrough. The magic behind this molecule is a process called tautomerism. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a molecule that can change its posture. It doesn't add or lose any atoms, it just shuffles a couple of its internal hydrogen atoms around, and that tiny little internal shift completely changes how it behaves electronically. So meet our hero molecule. It's a type of metal-free benzyporphyrin, or MFBP. In its most stable state, which scientists call T1, it's basically off. The pathway for electrons is totally blocked, and it barely conducts any electricity at all. But then, with just a tiny nudge, 2 of its hydrogen atoms shift their position, and the molecule snaps into a new state, the T2 state. That simple change in posture creates a direct pathway for electricity to flow right through it. The molecule is now on. And right here, this is the key innovation. The switch isn't flipped by forcing a current through it, which can be messy. It's precisely controlled by an external electric field. And that is a huge deal, because it means you can control millions of these switches independently, which is exactly how a modern computer chip has to work. So, just how good is this switch? Well, the ratio of the current flowing through it between its on state and its off state is more than 500 to 1. To put that into perspective, a high ratio is exactly what you need for a reliable computer. The difference between a 0 and a 1 has to be massive and unmistakable, right? And just look at this graph. The on state, that gray line, it just skyrockets compared to the off states. A 500 to 1 ratio? That is fantastic. Okay, so a great switch is a huge step forward, but the truly mind-bending part is what this technology lets us do next. It really opens the door to a world that goes way beyond simple on and off logic. Think about it like this. All of our computers right now are binary. They work with simple on-off switches that represent zeros and ones. But what if your switch wasn't just a simple light switch, but more like a dimmer dial with a whole bunch of different settings? Well, that's multi-state computing. And what's incredible is that researchers have already shown this is possible. By fusing just two of these MFBP molecules together, they created a single component that has 6 distinct, stable, and measurable electronic states. I mean, look at this graph. Each of those curves represents a unique setting on our molecular dimmer switch. What this means is we could store and process way more information in the exact same amount of space. Instead of just a 0 or a 1, a single component could hold a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. It's a truly fundamental leap in information density. And the versatility doesn't even stop there. By slightly changing the linker atoms, the bits that connect the molecule to the electrodes, you can transform the same core structure from a multi-state switch into an efficient molecular wire, perfectly capable of transmitting signals. So what's the bigger picture here? Well, while there are still enormous challenges, remember those 5 C's, scientists now have a credible roadmap. They can actually design molecules to solve all 5 of those challenges right from the start, then build prototype circuits, and eventually aim for industrial scale-up. Look, this research is definitely still in its early days, but it really forces us to ask a profound question. We've spent decades carving silicon with light, but with this new bottom-up approach, are we heading toward a future where the heart of our technology isn't built in a sterile factory, but is instead grown, molecule by perfect molecule?